Happy New Year, guys, and welcome to my personal top 10 best movies of 2016 list. The year was full of bad movies. At least that's what I heard again and again, but it's simply not true. Only because some blockbusters didn't live up to the expectations, only because Batman v Superman wasn't that good, or Independence Day Resurgence was a pile of garbage, that doesn't mean the whole year in general was bad for movies. This will be a top 10 list, but I could easily do a top 25 one as well, and that would mean 2 great movies for every month, which is pretty decent, I think. My top 10 is so crowded with great titles that I will throw a lot of honorable mentions in there as well. And before we start, I also want to point out that of course I haven't seen each and every movie this year. I went to the cinema over 120 times, but some titles are simply out of my grasp because I live in Austria. But then again, there are some other highlights most people might have missed. There are 3 movies that might be pretty high in my list, but I couldn't see them. Hacksaw Ridge, Moonlight and Silence. But without further ado, let's get started with my number 10. Captain America Civil War. We got 8, yeah that's right, 8 American superhero movies this year, and the best and biggest one of them was the film with the already famous airport scene. But it's not just on my list because of the action, but because of all the characters and the emotions. And before we continue, let's do a very quick top 3 superhero movies of the year. Number 3, Deadpool. Number 2, Doctor Strange. And of course number 1, Captain America.
I could do this all day.
Number 9, Green Room, which I unfortunately missed in the theater. It was this year's Halloween movie for me personally, and it totally blew me away. It's an intense and very brutal little shocker, a fight for survival by a little group of musicians in the lion's den of neo-Nazis. It's one of Anton Yelchin's last movies, and if you're just the slightest into claustrophobic thrillers, you should not miss it. And speaking of intense movies that take place in a very narrow surrounding, I've got 2 honorable mentions for you. Don't Breathe and 10 Cloverfield Lane. Number 8, The Nice Guys. Perhaps the biggest contender for movies that should have done way better at the box office. It stars Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe as a mismatched pair of private eyes in Los Angeles of the 1970s. It's a Shane Black movie, the guy who wrote Lethal Weapon and directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. The dialogues, the style and the delivery are absolutely on point, and Gosling and Crowe have a natural chemistry that you don't see that often on the big screen. To watch these 2 guys stumble through a mysterious and also sexy crime plot is just too much fun.
I want you to help me with this case.
My profession's very complicated. It's very nuanced. Well, look who decided to show up for class.
Another odd couple, way stranger than in The Nice Guys, are Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe, who try to survive on a strange deserted island. In my next honorable mention, Swiss Army Man. Easily the strangest movie of the year. Not only because Daniel Radcliffe plays a farting corpse, but the whole approach, the style, the soundtrack, it's a gem of a movie. Number 7, Hell or High Water. What an incredible movie. It's a crime drama and a western, and also a very powerful commentary on parts of today's USA. Chris Pine and Ben Foster play 2 brothers who decide to rob banks in order to save their family's ranch in Texas. It seems simple, but the way the story and the themes come full circle is so good. It's also shot beautifully, and it has that pure raw cinema flavor to it. In a different way, pure and raw is the stuff in my next honorable mention, Captain Fantastic, in which Viggo Mortensen shows us a different way to live your life. What I adored about this movie was the way it handled its themes and characters. It gives you a new perspective without forcing a too simple message onto you.
Our children shall be philosopher kings. Makes me so indescribably happy.
Number 6 is way more serious than that. My favorite science fiction film of the year by one of today's best directors, Denis Villeneuve's Arrival. It was a strange cinema experience because I went from being mildly disappointed to being blown away by the movie's ending, the fulfillment of its concept and the overall emotional gut punch. It's a very intimate film, and at the same time it deals with big questions and ideas, and Amy Adams is amazing as our lead. Another great lead, like always, was Tom Hanks in Sully, which gets an honorable mention, just because it felt so human and heartfelt to me. It's a tribute to the everyday hero. There's a big problem, there's a solution, and there are people there to help. No one dies today. I'm just a sucker for these stories.
Over 40 years in the air, but in the end I'm going to be judged on 208 seconds. I need a count, passengers and crew.
Is anyone still here?
And I'm also a big sucker for movies with a positive message. Don't give in to fear. Be tolerant and open-minded. A good message alone doesn't make for a good film, but if you combine it with an exciting crime, mystery, adventure story, humor and today's best animation, you got yourself a great movie. My number 5 is Zootopia. The movie got me by surprise. I was expecting nothing more but a simple, fun animated movie about talking animals, and what I got was an intelligent parable about race and prejudices. And my honorable mention is yet another Disney film, The Jungle Book, which was just an incredible visual experience and a fun adventure movie. And the singing of Christopher Walken was stuck in my head for a month. Many sleepless nights.
So, I wanna be like you. I wanna use that flame just the same you can do.
My number 4 is a movie that almost no one outside of Europe has seen so far. According to Box Office Mojo, its widest release in the US were 3 theaters. But I'm very hopeful it will play a big role at this year's Oscars in the category of foreign language films. For a very long time it was my number 1 this year, and of course I'm talking about Toni Erdmann. Toni what? Yeah, it's a German movie that was shown at Cannes this year. It's almost 3 hours long, and it has some very funny comedic elements in it as well. It tells a story about a young businesswoman and her eccentric father. It's a movie about growing up, about life, about time, about the things that matter and the life choices we have to make. It really moved me on an emotional level, and I don't have to say that I highly recommend it.
Papa, ich rede mit dir.
Wenn es um Ihren Vater geht, da bin ich nicht der Richtige.
Hast du in deinem Leben noch irgendwas vor, außer anderen Leuten ein Furzkissen unterzuschieben?
Ich hab gar kein Fußkissen.
The honorable mention goes to another film with equally incredible performances and heavy emotions. Manchester by the Sea by Kenneth Lonergan. A very heavy, very consuming film to watch, but well worth it. Alright, enough with all the honorable mentions, time to look at this year's top 3. And we start with another foreign language film. This time it's a very special movie from South Korea, and if the director wouldn't be Park Chan-wook, there's a big chance I wouldn't have watched the movie at all. I'm talking about The Handmaiden, a beautifully shot, beautifully composed, incredibly put together film. Dark and somehow lighthearted at the same time, it tells the story of a woman who is hired as a handmaiden to a Japanese heiress, but secretly she is involved in a plot to defraud her. But there's way more to the story, and with each new chapter the narrative holds something new and surprising for the viewer. It's a sexy and powerful movie that would be impossible to make the way it's made in the US, and the score is simply mesmerizing. Talking about the score, my number 2 is Moana. I didn't think it would be possible to top Zootopia this year, but Moana is the most stunningly beautiful animated movie I've ever seen, and the songs hit me right in the heart. My God, who would have thought that one of my favorite songs of 2016 would be sung by Dwayne Johnson? But it's true. I know I didn't do a regular movie review for this, but here it is. I Loved it. It's such a great and imaginative hero's journey. It has everything you can wish for. Great characters in Moana and Maui, incredible visuals, amazing songs, a strong positive message, and most of all, it has heart. Disney is just killing it recently, and Moana is the peak of animation craftsmanship and musical storytelling. I saw the movie just last week, and ever since I'm listening to the soundtrack every day, all day long.
See the light as it shines on the sea, it's blinding, but no one knows how deep it goes, and it seems like it's calling out to me, so come find me.
You know the last time I did that? Actually, I did it just until I saw Moana. I did it for many weeks straight with this movie. There's absolutely no debating what my number one favorite movie of 2016 is. It's La La Land. It's not just my favorite film of the year, it's most likely my favorite film of the last 10 years. I don't give 10 out of 10s lightly, but there was no question about it. I adore this movie so much and I can't wait to see it again. You know, it hasn't even been released here yet. I only saw it at this year's Vienna International Film Festival and I was smiling for the entire time. It's only director Damien Chazelle's third picture. What a talent! We can expect a lot from this guy. La La Land is like a trip to another world, a dreamlike experience with singing and dancing and smiling and crying and maybe one of the most heartfelt endings of all time. I'm just so thankful there are films like this, and a year that gave us La La Land can't be that bad when it comes to movies. I could point out how great the performances by Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling are, how magical the cinematography and editing, how the songs won't let you go, and so on, but I will just leave it at that. Please just do yourself a favor and watch La La Land. In German I'd say, einfach zauberhaft. One last honorable mention, Sing Street. Alright guys, this is my list. Now I want to hear from you, what are your favorite movies of the year? What are the movies you enjoyed the most? The movies that got to you? Comment below or let me know, and next Sunday we will take a special look at the best animated movies of the year. Spoiler alert, Zootopia and Moana might end up pretty high on that list as well. You can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and now also on Letterboxd, simply at The Jimmy Cage. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like.